make it 7 o'clock, so welcome to the planning meeting. If I can just introduce everyone here, because I haven't got any name cards. Gemma is the clerk for this committee, so she keeps us all in mind, especially me. I'm Andy Wilson, Chair of Planning. Councillor Donald Firth and Councillor Mary Blacker. Okay.
Excuse me, I'm going to just make an announcement about exits,
Yes.
health and safety. In the unlikely event that there's a reason to evacuate, the main entrance is your main exit. In the extremely unlikely event that that's blocked, there is another exit at the back, which is through here, and we assemble in Victoria Place. Okay, has everybody signed in?
Yes.
Okay, it just so happens that the toilets are also this way. Well, I say the toilets, it's actually toilet singular. We have one toilet in there, so if anybody needs a toilet through that door, it's the last door on your right. Okay, sorry about that.
Thank you. Okay, we always start with an open session of planning, which is your opportunity to speak. Strictly speaking, we're limited to 15 minutes, and each speaker has 3 minutes.
Can you speak a little bit, please?
I shall try, but my voice is going, unfortunately. We have 15 minutes in total. You can speak for 3 minutes individually. And unfortunately, we do have to time that, and I'm afraid we have to cut you off after 3 minutes. Clearly, there's more than 5 speakers here. But I guess a lot of you are going to be speaking about the same thing, so you can probably consolidate that a little bit. I do know there are 3 separate subjects. So we'll start with the open session of planning. Once we've heard your submissions, we've got some housekeeping things to go through, and then we can move the agenda around so that we can move to those 3 subjects straight away. And having done that, then you'll be free to go. You don't have to listen to the rest of what we're going to be doing. So that makes a bit of sense. So, first item, open session of planning. As I said, there's up to 15 minutes for the members of the public to address members of the committee in connection with applications to be considered at the meeting. This session allows both applicants and objectors to address the members. Any other information related to items on the agenda will be considered as part of the agenda item. So, who would like to start things off?
Peter, who wants it? I'll follow. Peter, do you want it?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to comment, if I might, on the development of the proposed off-chain lane of 50 houses, that particular one. And I've got 2 major concerns.
Excuse me, could you stand at the basis because you can't hear anything?
Yeah, it's just alarm.
Might be the alarm.
Yeah, it's the alarm.
Thank you. So I've got 2 major concerns, and I know other people will have other things, but the first major concern is risk to houses because of mining works that are on the proposed site. During the summer, exploratory groundworks were conducted there, and they found a mine adit that they didn't know was there, and the work that they did there caused flooding to houses on Gin Lane at the back of properties, which was quite extensive. The groundworks report that they had has recommended that no further work is done on that adit because of the risk of flooding to existing properties. However, if no further work is done, it's impossible to determine whether that land is safe. Just off-site, in the grounds of the houses off Gin Lane, the Maltons where I live, there's also another mine adit that's about 7 or 8 yards from the boundary of the site. and that shaft runs under the house of one of my neighbours. It's underneath their garage. And again, they've not been able to do any work on that site, on that particular mine shaft, and we're deeply concerned, without work being done, that there could be instability to existing houses on the land. The final thing I wanted to say is about heritage concerns. The council commissioned a heritage report, which has been completely ignored by the developers who put in a rival report from another single loan consultant. The original report suggested there should be a zone that was free of housing. There are 10 houses in that zone, and I don't think they should be there. Whether or not the rest of the development should go ahead is not for me to say, but clearly there's a zone that poses concerns for existing houses on Gin Lane, which need to be addressed before any development goes ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Hold on, it's in 3 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to say that these are the thoughts of my neighbour who's gone through the plans with great detail and was hoping to come tonight, but her husband's been taken to hospital, so she asked me to read them out. First of all, loss of trees. Site access is achieved by the removal of 19 protected trees, which is unacceptable. Residents value the woodland around this site, who strive to get the protected spaces and enjoy the wildlife which habits as their home, for example, the rooks and the woodpeckers. The rooks, of course, are also protected. Impact of extra traffic. The application refers to 50 houses, giving rise to 100 cars, whereas the transport report shows an increased amount of 4+ bed houses, which have been allocated 3 cars. This means a minimum of 124 extra vehicles on Gin Lane. The lower half of Gin Lane resembles a car park, which is chaotic at school drop-off and turning out times. I have been sworn at by an irate parent as I try to get to my home. The lane is also used legally and illegally by non-residents to park their cars for long periods. The jury is out as to whether the revised junction onto the A616 is actually an improvement. The transport plan shows a proposed pedestrian crossing by the access point to the estate. This is dangerous as there is a banda in the lane, which means a person could step off the curb and be unseen by a driver. There is the added hazard of vehicles parked legitimately on this stretch of the lane. Site access for construction traffic via Gin Lane would present a danger to both drivers and pedestrians, as there is a blind bend by numbers 30 and 32 and a bend on the tunnel under the railway. There would be 2 years of misery for local residents during construction. Surface water. I believe that surface water remains an issue. It appears from plans that smaller houses will not have garaging and there will therefore be a greater amount of hard standing around the houses and a lack of front gardens. Discharging all this surface water into Ludhill Dyke is wrong and very unfair on people living in Council Terrace where flooding occurs downstream. Also, it is unclear what the impact of this estate would be on the houses below us. Furthermore, the River Home Connections are consulting with landowners on a proposed project to mitigate the effects of climate change on the river. However, the addition of this estate would work against it. That's Carol Ripley, who lives on Cockroyd. Now, just pass this to you. She did mention another development, but it's not example that having the estate. She put some points about that. Thank you.
Have anyone on Gin Lane?
Yeah.
Peter England, 2016. The application form filled in by the developers. One question. Land which is known to be contaminated. Land which is known to be contaminated. The applicant's answer, no. This was a big head. Another question on that form. Land suspected of contamination? No. Flood risk. Is the site at risk? Yes, it is. Ludhill Dyke proposals, a screen cleaning rubbish. I've seen that absolutely blocked solid from time to time prior to the screen which is already present. And they say that they will have somebody clean that monthly. I doubt it. If there's an emergency, they won't be there. And emergencies are something that we need to consider. The other consideration that worries me is that sharp bend opposite 31 and 32. It's a blind bend. I'd like highways to consider double yellow lines all down there, with a 20-mile limit and speed limits, whatever you want in the road, lumps, bumps, whatever you can find. Traffic calming, it's a necessity there before somebody is still coming out of the footpath that leads from Station Road. It's full of school kids, both going and exiting from school. And I've seen some close dudes. There are people going down there, and I've clocked them at 60 miles an hour. Now, is that right in a built-up area? It just isn't right. It's what, sir? Yeah. So, highways need to look very, very carefully at that. Thank you.
Robert Wilson, 43 June Lane.
Yeah, stand up for that.
Yeah, it's good. The sweat path analysis. Only half of it's being done. This is for the dustbin wagons. They've only got it coming in and going out from the west. It wants doing for the east as well. The dustbin wagon doesn't come into one place and go out and go somewhere else. It goes up the road. The drawing shows an 8x4 wagon, which is 8 axles and 4 driven. That's one used by Kirklees Council. The sidebar shows a 6x4, which is used in the analysis. The analysis for delivery van shows a 5.9 van, 5.9 metre van. That's a small transit with Ducato. Almost all delivery vans are 6.36 like transit with Ducatos, or 7 metres Sprinters and Ivecos. So the sweat analysis won't be right for bigger vans, which people use. Also, some of the drawings show a foot crossing in front of 45 G Lane. That's to the west, yes. Some, but not all of them. The visibility display, looking from the east, from the north side of Gin Lane, cannot see both sides of Gin Lane to the east. Carpentry, on the drawing, it shows a car, but the crossing, if you stood on it, is 1.5 metres to 2 metres up against the wall, and the wall obscures it, so that is no good as a crossing. If it goes a crossing there, it goes across to a wall which will have to be taken out and a footpath put in, but only as far as the crossing. It can't go any further because there's the drop into the river. If you put a crossing on the roadside, not a crossing, the pavement on the roadside, us at 41, 43 and 45 won't be able to get in and out of our drives without going onto the footpath. So if you put one there, it wants dropping so that we can go in and out. both going in and out, we need to go use all the road. There, it's 7.7 metres wide. I have a 6-metre vehicle. As I'm coming out, there's less than my height between the front and the wall. So if there's a footpath, I've got to go on the footpath. But we're using all the road at the moment in existing use.
Sorry about that, but, we have to be strict. Are there more on Jim Lane? No more on Jim Lane?
Can I just pass really one of these? And just say to people here, if you're not sure how to put any you know, comments in on the comments, we've had 100 of these printed that we've distributed, which gives some of the information about the vehicle problems, etc. But also how you can actually make that comment onto the. So I'll give you that for the record. We were so concerned because one of the problems I think is that we didn't get publicity about this new application. The actual posters on the lamppost only went up last week. It was not acceptable.
And what was taken ripped down as well. When we walked past it, it was on the lamppost as we went down. It ripped down and we came back. Can I have a quick word?
Do you want me 3 minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I know. So it just really to reiterate what some of the things that have been said. The biggest problem is the site access. You know, Gin Lane is totally, in my opinion, totally unsuitable for a development of 50 houses. Totally unsuitable. There's a flooding issue that the gentleman on the front row mentioned first of all. Couldn't agree with him more. And it's further up Gin Lane as well. So where I live at number 42, we are at risk of flooding all the time. So when we have leaves that are covering the drains and so on, we have to have a working party going out and clear the drains to let it run away. And it actually comes out in the culvert at the bottom of our garden, which is Ludhill Drive. And you can see, you know, again, it's been mentioned already about mine workings and suitability of the land itself. Well, there's Red Ochre coming out next door to us, number 40 Gin Lane. So it's very evident there. And that water runs all the time. You know, it's running now. You could go and see. Network Rail. I don't think anybody's really mentioned Network Rail, but one of the problems with Network Rail is there was an inadequate culvert there that goes under the railway, the Penistone line. It's about 125 metres long and it does block up. And this can cause problems down the line as well. You know, obviously all this water's going down and particularly causing a problem at the bottom and the Neely playing fields. People, everybody here seeing Neely playing fields. I've seen a boat on Neely playing fields. So much water, and I'm not exaggerating. The ancient woodland that was mentioned and the wildlife habitat, the rooks, the owls, the woodpeckers, bats, foxes, and I think I'm not supposed to say this, but badgers. I see badgers in my garden regularly. Okay, I can show you pictures or videos if you wish. And there's also deer. You know, so there are a lot of nice wildlife there, and this will destroy it because it's a real. Badgers should be on top of the agenda there. I don't know where any of the sets are. I wouldn't like to say, but when we live next to brockholes, there's maybe some indication that those sets are somewhere around. And they're a protected species. I think the Network Rail bit was the integrity of the railway as well. Okay, I've only 3 minutes. 3 seconds, okay. Infrastructure. I don't think the village is big enough for it. There's been 3 big housing developments locally that I've put on my objection, and this will be another one. Thank you. John Buckingham, sorry, 42 Gin Lane.
Right, okay, thanks.
Can I just ask a question?
Not at the moment, we will come back to it, we will have an opportunity. I have a letter from a lady, you probably familiar with, Mandy, on it?
Yes.
She's asked if we could read that, because she's been on holiday.
She lives opposite me.
So she says, and you have to bear with me, my voice is good.
Don't need to read it. Don't need to read it. I'll have to do it. Right, this is from Mandy Cameron, who I think 63 Gin Lane, opposite where I live. Access, the proposed entry-exit onto the site is at the worst possible point in the road, between the railway bridge with limited view and 2 sharp bends in the road. Added to this is the use of Gin Lane as a cut-through and the speed at which these cars travel, plus the already problematic parking by Honley High School parents who park on both sides of the road, making access in general difficult. In recent years, there has also been a marked increase in the number of cars parking on Gin Lane during the day. That's fact. 2. Volume of traffic. 50 houses equates to at least 100 cars. Exiting onto the main road at the bottom of Gin Lane is already difficult process at certain times of the day, and this site will exacerbate the problem considerably. The rather pointless recent work to the junction appears to have made little difference. Agreed. Flooding. Despite the new culvert which was built several years ago, flooding on Gin Lane is an issue every time it rains. Nearly playing fields is sufficiently underwater for ducks to swim there, and there are large deep puddles across the junction where water spurts through holes in the road. We know that a recent engineer's report commissioned by Kirklees Council recommended that the proposed site was not suitable due to the mine shafts below, which why commission a report and then ignore it. So this is a question for the Kirklees. Old woodland, these trees have TPOs on them, as do many on Gin Lane. It is very difficult, impossible in our case, despite taking it to the Ombudsman, so this is a tree on their property, to get permission to even prune a tree. How therefore is a proposal to remove ancient woodland acceptable? The 19 trees that somebody mentioned, which is correct. Thank you for taking time to listen to our comments. Mandy and you and Cameron.
Thank you.
Sorry, there's a gentleman back here trying to stand up.
Oh, sorry. Well, you're not you're not talking on Gin Lane.
No.
Sorry.
You want me to come?
No.
Not there.
Right, after all you've heard on Gin Lane, you will be a bit surprised to discover that I've come to talk to the committee very briefly about the issue of commercial bins in Hull Firth. The members of the committee have received the report. I do apologise, I'm sorry.
No, that couldn't go to you.
I'll start again. My name is Stan Driver and I'm representing the Hull Firth Conservation Group. My colleague has done a survey of Hull Firth because of the problem that they've identified of bins. And there are something like 70 large commercial bins and another 20 or 30 domestic sized bins, all in use by businesses in Hull Firth. And most of them parked in very prominent places in the street. This is partly due to the fact that there are at least 7 firms involved in collecting the refuse from these bins, all of whom arrive on different days, and the bins tend to be left out until the firm arrives, particularly because some firms who have refuse to put in the bins are not open every day. So it's a continuing problem. It may be slightly relieved by the proposal to have eight bins when the site works off Huddersfield Road are completed, but that's by no means sufficient to cope with the contents of 70 bins, and in any case, the spread of businesses about the town centre is such that it's highly unlikely everyone would go to one place. Business owners and their employees are highly unlikely to want to carry large amounts, whether it's food waste or cardboard waste, to a single site. So we are hoping that it will be possible to persuade business owners to cooperate with each other so that they can share bins, which could reduce the number of bins quite substantially. But it would be very helpful if the parish council could, in general terms, indicate its support for that course of action. Obviously, it has to be without prejudice to anything that they may have to say on individual proposals for bins on sites that might need planning permission. But short of that, I hope that the councillors will feel it appropriate to support the idea of reducing the number of commercial bins in the middle of Holmfirth. Thank you.
I think we have one couple wanting to speak on another application. Yes, yes, you want to speak on Jim Lane?
On Jim Lane, yeah.
All right.
I'm trying to get hold of one of the PO of this building. Somebody might be.
It's just a bit over before it was organized.
So, my name's Charles Greaves. I'm one of the parish councillors. I'm also the Kirklees councillor. I cover Holmley, Meltham and Brockhills. I'm here to talk about the Gin Lane application that's just been submitted. A lot of people will know that this is the second time around. The original application that was submitted was withdrawn. The major issue with that was regarding the highways access, but there were actually still quite a number of issues. So it looks like this application has overcome the highways issue, but there's still a lot of other things with that. Just today, the planning team have put on some updated reports. So just today, the planning officer has put on some additional reports, all of which are looking to impose conditions on Gin Lane. So that would be approval, but with some work to be done. The big ones that are still to be addressed, the big issues really are around the mine works, and it's a bit of a concern is that one, in that it could have, if it's not addressed properly, it could have quite a big impact on the existing residents who are below the site, further down Gin Lane. It's really going to be down to the coal authority to decide on that, but there are some knock-on implications regarding the existing flood drainage arrangements, and Mr. Slee's done a good job of covering that, I think. But the other issues in respect of the heritage property, in respect to the trees officer has pretty much said that they're fine with it, which is a bit of a disappointment. There's just one tree on site that the system is retained, and the other ones that need to come out for the access lane that they're fine with. So the sum total of it is Kirkland's planning pretty much leaning towards approving this. So it's important that when people write in to raise their issues and concerns, that we really do say what they think, say how they feel about it, but also it's about using that local knowledge to find if there's any issues at all that Kirkland's has missed. So the mining is a significant one. I've got my own concerns about the train line as well, and the standoff, but there's all rules and guidelines, and and that's really for those other authorities to say what they want. It was the site was identified in the local plan, and the big block on it was the access road. They've done a deal for the cottage now, which means we can get that access in. So,
But Charles, can I just say? Yes, if they've got that access, but that's inappropriate. You can't just say because they've got that access, that that's going to be suitable.
well,
It's in the worst possible place.
Can we say
just to be clear, I'm absolutely not saying that. I'm not
No,
putting
not
these.
you personally, but what you're
Yeah.
saying that the
Yeah.
council is.
So that.
Can we just say this
So it would be helpful if people, when they wrote into papers, if they flagged up those issues and concerns. But from what I was telling me, they have no concerns over that. The big issues in play are about the list of cottages, it's about the mine workings, it's about the flood drainage issues. But if there's anything, so if there's anything else that anybody knows that's specific about the site, which may be from having lived there for a considerable period of time, now's the time to mention it, because if nobody's aware of it, afterwards it'll be too late.
So, Charles, can I just clarify? So Beckley's aren't bothered about that access there?
Stephen, can we just say this, please? There will be chance. We have to go through some sort of technical stuff almost.
Don't finish which is burger or whatever. Down in
And I think for sure we need to get, whoever's making the decision, interview late at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, for them to say that it's all right. I think these people are interested.
Yeah, lovely.
Right.
Might put that in my book. Thank you.
Item number 20. This is about council meetings being now recorded. So you might have realised that this meeting is being recorded. I have to ask if anyone else wishes to make a recording.
Sorry, I can't hear what you're saying.
We are being recorded, you may have realised that. Does anyone else wish to make another recording?
Do we get access to that recording?
It will go on YouTube, yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Item 21, apologies for absence.
Yes, earlier this evening I circulated apologies and reasons for absence from, I'm on the list this time, wasn't it? Councillor Davis, Councillor Ransby, Councillor Barnett, Councillor Lyles, I just want to...
Steve, you got Steve next week? Sorry, Tom Dixon.
Councillor Dixon, thank you very much.
So can we vote on those, please? Yeah, thank you. Item 22, to receive members and officers' personal and disclosable pecuniary interest in items on the agenda. I'll keep that off and say item number 8 in our list of the plan applications. I will declare an interest in that, which means for that item we will be for it, so I'll look at the next copy. Do either of you two have any? Thank you.
I have a comment.
Have you any that you wish to
I have a
interest in?
I have a comment on the one we've just been
Yeah,
discussing.
we're going to come to that.
Oh, okay.
Item 23, consider written request for new DPI dispensations. Item 24, to consider whether items on the agenda should be discussed in a private session. Do we have anything? No, thank you. Item 25, to elect a vice chair.
Can we go now? Is this your business now?
We will come back to it if you want to wait.
No, it's
As I say, we have some issues that we have to go through, and we'll suspend standing orders so that we can speak on Gin Lane and the,
That's why we've come here to talk about
and
it.
we will do it, yes.
Not to listen to you talking about items.
Well, I'm sorry, but we have to go through a procedure.
Well, we don't. We don't.
You're free to go if you want, but you're also free to stay here and talk about it.
We just talked about it.
Yeah.
That we haven't.
Well, can you talk about it now then and tell us what
We
you're
can, if
doing?
you let me get through this, yes.
Good.
So we have to elect the vice chair of the planning committee. I've had a nomination from Councillor Ramsey. Are you okay with Councillor Ramsey being vice chair?
I'll make no comment.
I'll second that.
So Councillor Ramsey will be vice chair. So at this point, we can now vote to suspend standing orders so that we have the opportunity to talk about the two subjects that we're talking about. Right? So are we okay to suspend standing orders? Thank you. I would like to kick us off with, we'll consider Gin Lane first, because that's what the bulk of the people here are for. Any comments?
Yes, I'll make a start.
Can I ask a question?
Sorry.
Yes?
My question to these people here is, if there's underground work in from a pit or pits, where is the shaft? Do we know where the shaft is? Where
Yes.
the pit shaft is?
Yes, the big
Do
groundworks
we-
that show where they are.
and there's nothing like the old pit workings to cause flooding. We've had flooding in Jackson Bridge, we've had them in Old Mouse Lane, we've had them all over the place. And I have someone that has actually got about 5 pit shafts on, which we did. Actually, my grandfather filled them in because they were a pain. And if somebody had fallen down, we'd never heard of them again. Well, the bottom line is, if there's pit shafts, there's a chance of flooding. I would like to ask the question, how long have you known about these 50 houses in the plan?
About 3 weeks.
Weeks?
Yes.
Once you put the sign up on the post.
Well, that's a crime, that's the way they operate.
I think there's been 4, I know Charles said there have
Well,
been 2
listen.
occasions where they've done this, but actually I
Listen.
think historically there's more like 4 or 5. This has been rejected on mining before this.
Well, it shouldn't
On
be.
many
It should have been
occasions,
kicked in the
every
long
time.
grass and never been seen again. There's mining under there, and that can be a problem. And also, you need your Kirklees councillor for the whole shooting match to discuss this, because some of them will be on that planning committee.
Yes.
Some will be on that planning committee. I know I've been on that planning, so I know how it operates.
We don't know, you see. So this is, we've had 3
The
weeks
whole
notice
thing is,
and we don't know.
The general public, by and large, get to know when it's too late.
Can I make a couple of points here?
But
As
as many questions
as
you
a
want.
parish councillor, we don't have the final
No.
say. Okay?
No.
Councillors are
Which is
the decision
unfortunate.
makers. And so clearly, any objections certainly need to get back to Kirklees in whatever form that happens. The other thing is, I don't know whether you're aware, but this has been on the local plan for probably several years. So whilst you might not have been aware of any specific planning application, that's been on the local plan.
Well, we all objected to the one that was defeated in 2019. This has come back again, and as Councillor Greaves said, the access is a difficult one now to argue because they've already made their mind up about that. But we weren't able to look at detailed issues of the site in 2019 because the matters were reserved to access only. So now we have to get serious about the risks of flooding through mining. Plus the dereliction of a heritage part of the site, which is of both considerable and moderate heritage importance, which has just been rolled over by these developers in their plans. So that's all we're trying to do, is to move to that now, and the risks are considerable. There is drainage. Our drains were overwhelmed by somebody drilling for 5 minutes in that field what will happen when they sink piles for 50 houses.
Yeah.
And I've got a neighbour with a mine shaft running underneath her house. She's recently widowed and she's been driven demented by this. There are no guarantees for her house unless we make these points.
Chair.
And the Penistone line is running just at the top of the field. So I mean that's
And then embankments
the
unstable.
embankment's unstable. It's already got gabions that have been installed.
The engineers who built it in 1840 knew it was the ground was unstable there because they built a wide embankment. Look at the Gin Lane Bridge, it's long because, yeah, and look at you can tell it's on bad ground because it's wonky, it's all over the place. That's been going down for over 60 years.
Excuse me, do we have access to planning meetings? Can the public go there? Right, well, I would call upon you, Mr. Chairman, to let us all know when it is, and we can go en masse to challenge it. Is that right? Is that fair enough?
You do need to go.
Yes, definitely.
We don't know when they are, do we, for that?
Yeah, it's all, it's just getting nodded through if we're not careful.
The
The
developers,
land was greenbelt for a long time, and that was overthrown. We had no idea that it had been moved from being greenbelt field to a non-greenbelt field. That happened 10 years ago. We had no idea that had happened. That just
Our
happened like
councillors
that.
at Kirklees will have at least one or maybe two on the planning committee, and they will find out when it's going to appear on the plan. And that is on YouTube. When the planning meeting, it goes on YouTube, so if you can't get down, you can't say anything, but you can't get down, you can watch the meeting
Yeah.
from home.
Councillor Bell.
Well,
Councillor Becker.
Thank you. Right. As our chair said, this land is designated for housing in the local plan, and I think this is an example of what quite often happens, which is applications come back and come back and come back, and eventually they are agreed. So this has been around the houses. We have discussed this before at the parish council. I mean, there are some things about the application I think look quite reasonable. I think the mix of housing is good, given that there are a lot of small houses and there's a desperate need for small houses in the Home Valley. However, I suggest that my suggestion is as a committee that we object to this application, and that is all we can do as the parish council. We don't make any decisions. We can convey our views to Kirklees Council. I'm suggesting that we object to this, and we have a very long list now of reasons, good reasons to object. I mean, there are lots. There are already quite a number of objections on the website. So I just urge you, if you wish to carry on and go and add to that number of objections. But the same, obviously, the same issues tend to come up again and again in some of those objections.
but the applicants
So it's
don't read
important. So can I just
them.
finish, please? So it's important that you think about other issues that may not have already appeared on the website. So I'm suggesting that's what we do. We object on this occasion, and we give a fairly long list of reasons for our objection.
The applicants don't read the comments. You can tell that because the councillors have to ask the same questions and something's done then.
If I could just echo a few of the things that Councillor Rackets mentioned. So far, there's 17 neighbour comments on this. There's one actually, and 4 succeeded against. And if you look at the top 3 things that people are raising as issues, it's access, loss of woodland, and flooding. I don't think any of them have mentioned mining.
Well, I tried to submit one last night, so there might be one now.
No, okay. So
Are you aware that
it's important that if there are things like that, that they get onto those residual objects.
the Mining Remedial Authority designate that area as high risk, not low risk, high risk. So how has it got to this stage?
Well, as I say, this all started with it making the local plan some years ago. And that was the time when really it could have done with being objected to. Whether it was or not, I don't know. I'm not talking about 2019, I'm talking about the local plan, which was 5 years ago.
Could I just ask a fairly straightforward question? We've heard lots and lots about plans from way back, plans to the present time. How many people have actually got off their backsides by the desks and gone out and had a look at the terrain that they're supposed to be looking at?
Yes.
I looked at it when
I cycled up there this morning.
Yeah, I'm talking about the councils, the planning committee. The planners actually incurred leads. They've got the big maps on the tables, I've seen them, and they make marks.
I do know
This is wrong.
I do know that Councillor Bellamy has been on site, but I don't know about any of
Well, Councillor Greaves has as well.
Yeah.
Chair, can you just listen to this? lady?
Can I say that we've lived off generally, we live on the other side from the development, just before the railway bridge. That is a really bad area for cars. It always was. 40 years ago I was taking small children to the junior and infant school. It is now horrendous. I can sit at the end of Ludwig Close as cars go up and down. I cannot see that entrance to the new bit. Cars, Kirklees did a test on how many cars were going up and down the lane, and it was hardly any because they did it during half term. Yes. So what faith can we possibly have in transport and so on when they put that down? And they all know, they all work at Kirklees, they must know when the school holidays are. So,
Well, the developer had paid for someone to do a traffic survey. Now I checked, the 5-bedroom houses they're assuming will have 3 cars, the rest 2. There are lots of apartments, so the apartment blocks have got 4 houses with 2 cars each. There are actually 172 potential cars on that site. And the traffic survey says at peak times there'll be 10 going out and 7 coming back. I don't know where the other 3 are going to go. But you cannot tell any of us that that is right. And these paid for reports are paid for to be biased. I'm really sorry, but they don't add up.
I met more than that this morning.
Yeah. They just don't add up.
Chair,
If I could just make the other points, and you know, the first one was it is on the Kirklees local plan. And I think what we have to look at is there obviously are numerous issues surrounding this. And I think the questions are, how they been addressed by either the developer or if Kirklees recognises and imposed conditions to try and get around it. And I think these are the real questions. So by all means, raise as many of these different issues as you can to try and get some sort of response to those. I think I'm with Councillor Blacker in that at this point anyway, I don't think I would want to support it, I think I would want to oppose it, and we've got a whole list of things that we'll go through later. But please add your issues to the list on the website. We can let you know when the Kirklees planning meeting is.
Yeah, please do.
How will you let us know? How will you let us know?
How will we
Is
let
there a
you know?
central point of contact that you prefer?
Well, unless you did it on, unless you did it on only community,
On Facebook.
on Facebook page or something.
Everybody's happy with that?
We can, we can.
The provisional date is set as 11th of September,
We'll have to set,
but that's provisional.
yeah.
So, well, that's when strategic planning committee meets. So it's provisionally on that, but this is an unusual site in that there's other statutory authorities that can basically kibosh it, that need to have their say. So that might slow it down. So one of those will be Network Rail, one of those is English Heritage, the other one is the Coal Authority. So either of those three could send it sideways for months. The mining issue is quite a technical one, and I've got to thank Peter for doing all the work on that. But it's quite a technical one, and there's a real danger that if they address it with conditions, the condition to deal with the mining will create additional issues with the flood drainage. And if they then deal with the flood drainage conditions, that might make issues with the mine. And it's that bit about they need to be dealt with together. And I'm very much hopeful that that's what the Coal Authority will do. And if they're going to do that, they're going to be asking for a lot more detailed information. So it could push it further on. The only other thing to say is that it does feel a lot of times that Kirkland's planning just like sign stuff off. But there's been a lot of cases along the way. So there's dreadful highways access issues on loads and loads of approved sites. They went to the planning, Kirklees refused, they went to the planning inspector, and the message effectively from the planning inspector was, they're poor, they're impaired, but they function currently, and it's a bit of and this is not the straw that's going to break the camel's back. And if it is, you can refuse it. But how do you prove that before they've built them? You can't prove it, because all their technical reports say it's not a problem. My personal take on it is all those experts working for the developers, I don't really think, I don't think any of them are ever going to say no, because they'll never get another job. So it always feels a bit biased.
But who would be liable if there would be a major disaster because of coal? Say if they're flooded, 30 houses collapse because the shafts can't deal with it. Whose fault? Like, I mean, who's
to be honest, I have no idea. But my experience of down Thurston is once the builders have sold and jumped into the van, banked the money and driven off, they're not particularly interested.
No, because they change company. They change company's house.
And then it sticks with the people who bought the houses. But this is a bit more complicated because actually it's the people who live down below who are likely, if it all goes wrong, they're likely to be the ones facing the worst consequences.
But if it's an old
issue, I'm taking over.
issue, then
thank you very much. I'm going to have to draw this to a close. We've got lots of other business to go through. I think I'm going to be proposing that we actually oppose this one, and we'll go through the reasons.
Please do. Yes, please do. Just a silly question you might, I don't know if anybody knows. I put an objection in, but I had fairly little information, but I was aware of the timeline of this.
You can submit another one.
Can you submit another one or amend one? You can keep, okay. Because I know a lot more now.
And just to say,
do a bit of research.
word gets out later, so there is a cut-off point on the website for consultation comments to go in. If after that there's still stuff to be said, send it to me and I'll get it to the planning officer. But the thing, we have to get the information in sufficient time for the committee meeting so the planning officers can assess it. So if somebody comes with some absolute gold that says can't build here, if it comes in the day before planning won't have time to assess it.
Sure.
And it might get then approved because they've not been able to assess the veracity of it. And I'll be begging them to defer, but the mission on the planning is directed heavily to move business forward. So trying to get deferral can be hard work. So if there's stuff to be said, sooner the better.
Very quickly.
Can I just ask that you've taken a vote and the parish council, where you are now going to oppose this, which you did last time it went through?
I couldn't say, I wasn't here.
I've been in Gin Lane for 25 years. I'm sure there are people here longer than me. But we put this through before, and I'm sure the parish council knocked it on the head before. Very thankful for it.
Everybody because of the access, I think. Before.
Okay. Anybody that's concerned with Gin Lane, they're free to go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. This is what it's all about. This is why the should have Thanks very much.
Changed his
No, I'm sorry, there was quite more than you used. Everyone knows it's not going to.
When you play a pop with my wife, you look at yourself, look at the hell, you've got no good for you. That's what.
Right, we're on next, we're on next.
You want me to stay for a bit?
Yes, please.
Well, okay, nice to meet you. Right, well, it's nice to meet you. I didn't think you'd recognise. Oh, I did. I know face to face.
Change the seats.
Well, okay.
Right. Okay, so we've given a ring with all of them, but we've suspended standing orders, which allows us
I raised the main issue when I spoke. It's clear that there is a problem, and it is difficult, I can understand, to find a solution because while some businesses find it very easy to cooperate with the neighbours, somebody has spoken to one lady who shares a bin with her neighbour. Neither of them has anything more than, tea bags from themselves, plus it's cardboard. Whereas some of the people who have enormous bins can fill them. The issue is whether some of the people who only half fill them could be persuaded to cooperate with their neighbour who only half fills a bin, so at least we have a fewer bins in visible places. Now, my colleague Steve Daly had a look round and he thought he might suggest places where shared bins or compactors or whatever could go. But it is difficult because even places like that are very difficult to find sites that can be
They almost certainly will be able to be seen from the road. But it's obviously better than it's obviously better than leaving the status quo without any challenge at all. So I'm hoping that through the one of the police officers called Isabel has decided to look into the matter and see what level of activity there is. So at this stage, I'm hoping that will result in the confirmation of our survey and first step towards maybe persuading some of the businesses to move forward. If they won't cooperate with the neighbours, there's very little we can do. I mean, the fact that there are 7 12-metre long lorries coming round Alford on different days of the week, that just adds to the congestion in the town. But, you know, it's difficult. You can't put somebody out of business.
I can throw a few comments in. I think this is there isn't going to be a solution to this, because I think there are several different issues here. I think the most obvious one is the Holgate one. I counted up to 19 bins in there. And the new bin area, when it's done with the new car park, is only allocated for 8. So it's clearly not adequate. And I think there's a need there for whoever's in charge of to get over that and reconsider. It's very difficult because Isabella's already said that it's too late. And
one of the problems I always used to face was that the fact is that any variation of contract allows the contractor to make you pay through the nose for the variation. So I wouldn't hold my breath over that contract being varied.
What she actually said is, as per the design, we can accommodate 8 bins with bins stored underneath the car. Blah, 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 blah. Within the design, there is little scope for last-minute changes. However, we can provide flexibility. Where we can provide flexibility, we will. Okay, so maybe there's a little bit of
There should be some leeway, shouldn't there?
Yeah, I would expect so. And I know Councillor Ansbury's put some comments in as well and said, you know, that he's been involved with, he's always struggled for last-minute change. I think some of the other areas are going to be extremely difficult to deal with because there just isn't anywhere else to put them.
Some of
one thought, and I think we touched on it the other day, one thought is that, and you see it in domestic settings, you can screen some of these, so at least they look better. Fencing around them or whatever it takes. And that might be something that the parish council would be able to support if people were to come to us and say, we'd like to do this, what you help us with.
That's interesting, Chair, because
I think your comments about rationalising suppliers and sharing bins, I think is excellent. Wherever that can happen amongst businesses, it's going to make the problem easier. So I don't think there's any one solution. I think there's going to be a series of things.
Thank you for the suggestion about the support in terms of screening. The problem, I suppose, is that some of these things are in such a place that it's very difficult. I mean, if you've got somewhere like Back Lane or whatever, which is so narrow that a refuse vehicle can't get up there, then obviously they're going to collect off Station Road. And so the bins there are just spilling out into the street.
I don't think there is a perfect solution, is there? I think there's probably a lot collectively we can do to make it better.
That's what we're hoping, and that's why it's worth putting it to the parish council as a long-term issue that with a bit of support might get some improvement. Nobody's suggesting that the bins will disappear, but at least I might hope that instead of there being 7 bins right on the corner of Victoria Street, we might get some fewer than that there. and things like that. You know, these big refuse vehicles can't get down the back lanes, so in some cases the only way people can get the bins collected is to shove them onto the street. But you just have to hope that
I just want to say, I thought the report, I enjoyed reading the report in a way. I mean, it was pretty miserable, but thank you, a really excellent report. Thank you.
My colleague Steve.
Did you do it?
No, my colleague Steve Davey wrote it. I went down with him and we agreed with him that all the locations that he was going to photograph and what he was going to say about them, that he put the words on the paper.
Is this something, Chair, that the town sector do? Because you're the
Unfortunately, there's no plans for another meeting.
Oh, right.
And sometimes, you know, you get so many people involved, it falls on its face. You don't need dozens of people involved. You really need to pick one person who knows all about it and can talk to the shopkeepers, because it's them who want the bins to put the rubbish in. And it's those people who need to be spoken to as well as. And once you've got that sorted out, somewhere to put them, out of the way where they aren't a nuisance, that's fine.
I've sort of two suggestions.
There's all sorts of ways to deal with it.
The ones on the Holgates and the new bin storage, I think it would be worthwhile as
Speak to them.
a bit of question on Isabel Whitworth. Isabel is now the local centre's programme manager for Town Centre Regeneration. Now she has, in a roundabout way, offered to talk to us about the plan in a wider sense anyway. So it comes out later on, but I think on that particular aspect, I would like to think that we'll find some solutions in that particular aspect.
I mean, today I think we're being asked to consider support for home for business together, aren't we? And I would suggest we do that. But that's, yeah.
Are we getting contact with businesses?
Yes, it's home for business together have brought this matter forward. So, but we could do a bit more as well as express support. We could actually perhaps do something practical.
Well, I'm glad to say that Isabel Whitworth is looking into it further, so at least Kirklees Council is aware of this issue. Whatever can be done to help with the problem on Holgate would be great, but it doesn't solve the problem of the rest of the town. So we need to be at it.
If the businesses can show that they're willing to make halfway the case, then I think there's.
Well, we hope so. At least we've produced a factual report and Steve's written it in a way that's, fairly chassis and
very accessible.
So it gives the basis to start, and that's all I wanted to put forward to this committee.
Okay.
Are you taking any actions away from this at this point?
Well, I'm going to suggest that we go back to Isabel and say we'd like to put a solution to part of it. And I think I'd like the business group to carry on their work in sharing and think about if you really can't put anywhere else and you can't do something, then can you hide them? Can you screen them?
We'll look into all of that and show my colleague Steve when he comes back from his holiday in a couple of weeks.
And you may want to talk to us again.
Thank you very much.
Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, we're on track. We are on minutes of business meeting.
It's a busy meeting. So we're on 27, Kirklees planning application. So notes to the list of purpose paragraph updated with the committee, so we note that please. Note the list of Kirklees applications. Today, we're going to report of amended applications received from Cleves, which is the list that we're about to start on. Okay. There are only 12 left. So first one.
Just a reminder that you have comments from Councillor Ramsgate about something.
Yes. So the first one was Holt Farm, change of use from an agricultural building to 2 dwellings.
Where's that?
Holt Farm.
Oh, there.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Freddie Andrews' place. Old farm. There a while ago. Bruce Andrews had put it in over out.
I would suggest we support that we need small houses. There's 2-3 bedroom houses, it seems reasonable. Highways have made some recommendations to the commission, so that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's all. I did think there wasn't very much detail in it. Very difficult to see just exactly what it was.
Has anyone been to look?
I haven't seen it. I'm assuming that there will be a full application follows it. So that we'll get a climate change statement and.
It's all about class Q, isn't it?
Yes.
So that's a road, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah. Number 4, Wimbledon, Scolesmore Road 8H. Regarding Greenbelt.
This is 10 to its.
Yeah.
Extending the summer house.
Matter who it is.
Couldn't really find what to say about that.
It affects anybody else, it's just.
Support?
Isn't Michael Egg, is it?
I don't know the name.
No idea, so that, no. We're not supposed to take any account of any individual. We're not supposed to take account of any individual.
That's what localism is all about.
Number 6, Shirley Grange, Burnley Lane, a detached garden studio, which is a fancy way of saying a shed, isn't it? It's in Greenbelt, it's in a garden, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is that's quite a fancy construction.
I thought the garden room was okay, so there's no impact on neighbours.
And where's that?
Shirley Grange.
It's a massive.
Oh, fair enough, I know where you
It's
mean.
a massive,
Yeah.
massive. Yeah. It
So-
is well hidden, really. Yeah, there's no really handy.
Order of the rule.
I've got support.
Support.
Number 8, I'm afraid we're going
I'm
to have
speaking
to.
out, so.
Number 9 and 10 are really the same one. It's on Flush House. All they wanted to do is put an oil tank in for the central heating. They're replacing one that's already. I think. Yeah. Number 13, Hilltop Farm, Countless Moor. Side extension and solar panels. I didn't really find much to say about this one. The materials
It's
all
in
match.
listed building, is it?
No, it's in
No,
Greenbelt.
no conservation, it's in Greenbelt.
It's in Greenbelt. But, you know, we're talking
It was on roof.
an extension and some.
There's a lot of argument about the limited development rights being removed. But I thought it was just a small extension, isn't it?
I've got support.
Yeah.
Number 14, 106 School Street, Clonfern. This is quite an interesting one. Change of use from commercial to dwelling, a 1-bed dwelling. I've sort of got mixed feelings about this. I mean, a 1-bed dwelling in the town centre is arguably exactly the sort of thing that we need. The problem is there's no parking. There's no climate change. Well, the climate change was very good. I think there is an opportunity here. I don't know. What do we say on that?
Well, I would support it. I mean, as you say, we need small accommodation, don't we? And maybe somebody with no.
It's a one-bedroom flat, a one-bedroom house.
It's a one-bedroom flat,
It's
isn't it?
a coffee shop. It used to be a kind of education.
Oh, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
If we made somebody without a car, you know, you just in the.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I wonder if there was any arrangements where they could, I suppose they can they buy like a year's worth of parking? Is there something we could say about that in the ordinance?
But it's a flat, I mean, we don't, there's not any rules out, I just support it, I think.
Really?
And it's making no changes to the external appearance at all, so. I
would like to say, I thought the climate change statement was quite
Yeah,
good.
do
I think there is an opportunity there. It would have swayed me more.
They've got worse and worse, the climate change statements, I think. Less and less care of them.
But yes, it was, so I'm happy to say it's good. What's this one?
16, I think.
16, Rycroft Lane, Scoles.
Yeah.
It's an outline planning permission for one dwelling.
Right off there, that's a green road, isn't it, there?
It is in Greenbelt.
But it's replacing a stable block. At the moment, they're only applying for access from Rycroft Lane, is that right? That's all the way.
Yes. So there is that lane runs through the side.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you, the sewage down Rycroft Lane is not above usable for the properties that are already there. Because I've been when there's been that 5 busts one afternoon.
They're citing the Greybelt, now they're citing the Greybelt, aren't they? So I mean, my feeling was that to have a domestic dwelling there would maybe harm the owners of the Greybelt. But given this issue about Greybelt, I would just want to defer to Kirklees officers, really. Oppose or defer to Kirklees officers was my view.
This is the subject we were talking about.
It is, yeah.
The other week, where I think before the new NPPF, it would have been clear cut that this would have been an appropriate development. They now claim that this is Greybelt because there are stables on it.
No, I don't mind. It's still green road.
Well,
this is Greybelt.
personally, I still think it's inappropriate.
It is.
Well, I'm happy
And sewage, I've told you, sewage is not adequate enough for another property down
I'm
there.
happy to oppose.
I feel it would.
Yeah, we can oppose it.
I'd still like to oppose it.
Okay, that's fine, I'm happy to oppose it.
Oppose and,
Yeah.
Inappropriate.
Yeah, inappropriate development. I mean, the openness of the Greenbelt.
Yeah.
Brownside Farm keeps trying, don't they? So they
17, yes,
if they
Brownside
live next to
Lane.
them.
Shepherd's Oats. And this is one that Steve Ramsbush put some comments in,
Okay.
and he wasn't keen on this because of setting a precedent.
Right.
However, this is a Shepherd's Oat for South Catesdale.
Where?
Brownside
Brownside
Farm.
Lane in Hepworth. They'd previously tried to get camping pods, and that was
Yes.
rejected, and the appeal refused as well.
Yeah. They also tried converting model buildings. Yeah, it's been along. Yeah.
There's this issue about it setting a precedent. It's a non-traditional structure.
Yeah. But it's something that can be towed in and towed out, isn't it?
There are highways issues.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this argument about setting the precedent because we don't really have to look at each application on its own merits.
It should be all right.
Right?
It will be all right.
Yeah, I think so.
What time?
9 o'clock.
Oh, that's what we're going to have.
The climate change again was poor. I suppose I agree with it, you might say it's unnecessary or something like that. I think again, I would still deem it to be inappropriate in a green belt.
I don't think it's only that. Happy to oppose really.
Okay, so we
Try and
propose that.
Okay, on what ground?
Inappropriate development.
But do we also want to, I mean, it's a very narrow road, isn't it, the traffic.
There were, yes, access
traffic
issues,
and no access, yeah.
a non-traditional structure. Noise and disturbance was mentioned, but I'm not sure how valid that is. You don't know that they're going to be doing it.
Sorry, what was that? Access issues and there was one more there.
Non-traditional structure. Number, okay.
Yeah.
Number 20. Farming in Holly. Another new dwelling, a 2-bed dwelling. Thought this was a bit odd in that there was no applicant or an agent's name on the application.
They applied last year, didn't it? And then we supported it then, but raised concerns about parking. Again, it's a small dwelling that's needed, and it's custom building. I mean, there's some weak things about the application, but obviously you've got to think about biodiversity net gain, but also the climate change statement for a new build was really feeble.
It's suggesting and encouraging rather than doing definitive about doing.
Yeah.
I think I would want to see a more robust climate change statement for sure.
This is the one that's come back several times, isn't it? It's that triangular peak, very, very slow thing, and it's become smaller and smaller and smaller, much smaller than it was. I think I can got to the point where I might want to say support, but with a number of issues.
I mean, personally, I didn't like the design. I thought it wasn't really in keeping with other buildings, but those accounts to that
So you
is,
can't really.
it's a little bit remote from other buildings anyway. I mean, interestingly, that on the plans it shows that it has solar panels, but yet in the climate change statement we don't mention it. So I'm not sure whether it has or it hasn't.
Hello?
Okay, so in
the meeting? I suggest.
Yes.
Oh, I've got a missed call, I thought you'd rung that.
I have. No, I haven't. Half an hour.
I was thinking support
Yeah.
with.
Support with.
Okay, all right.
Raising
Yeah.
concerns about, yeah. Well, we need to, the climate change, we expect to see a stronger climate change
Yes.
schedule for a new
Especially where it's coming
build.
from as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So support what we consider for climate.
22 we've done.
Should have done, thank goodness.
25, Bradshaw Road in Hull, a garden pod, which
Well,
I've described as a very fancy shed.
yeah, well, surrounded by very high hedges, 2.5 metres high, some of them 2 metres high, others, so
It must to say.
support. Well, that's very efficient.
It's where we got to now.
So we have got some other things to note.
We've got
on
28,
those.
aren't we? on?
27.
27, we're still
We've
on.
still got a couple of things to note, which are on item 27.
Right, so we're noting notification of appeal on application 2024-92626.
Yeah.
I think this is the one in Hepworth, isn't it? And I think we tend not to make any further comments.
You haven't in the past,
Yes,
but you are
yes,
open to do so if you want to
I think
change.
our comments will have been forwarded, so that's just.
So it's just not it, I guess. So now, Kirklees Council, Holford 31 Robinson Lane, definitive map modification order. Can we
Let's
note?
note it, I walked down that, and I saw the note, the modification notice.
To note the public inquiry into the definitive map modification order regarding the width of footpath at Woolstone Heights has been rescheduled for 15th of July. This is only about the width, it's
No,
not.
it's not about the Wolfstone, not about the reciting, rerouting.
Consider any further action.
Unless there's anything within those that you want to action.
No. Item 28, Peak District National Park. No new or amended applications were received. What to say, isn't it? Nothing from Peak District. Now, what is it since we've had anything?
I do check every now and again, just to make sure it's not that they're not sending it to me, check the notes that it's just not been done, is it? I think we've only got 30 buildings that are within our patch anyway, or something like that, so it would be unusual to get many everywhere.
To get many, two is a lot, isn't it?
Item 29. Planning Subcommittee on Plan Application in terms of reference. I think with this, if I can, I'd like to suggest that we move this to our next meeting, for the first part of it anyway, given that there's only 3 of us
I
here.
would agree.
I would qualify that a little bit and say the second part of that, the meeting dates for the subcommittee.
Yeah.
I think I would like to, if we can, agree those
I'm
dates.
happy to, happy to agree those blank dates.
And then we can publicise those and hopefully get in people's diaries. These will be Zoomed.
If you want them to be Zoomed, they can be
I'm
Zoomed.
suggesting that these will be Zoomed.
I think that's it.
I think we might get a better uptake if they are.
And,
I think the key thing here is to get the dates.
Yeah. I mean, there is an issue about membership, isn't there, as well? Who would wish to be on this committee?
And that this is an
potentially
item
would-
that I think, given that we've had a sort of very close call with being Cora this evening, that we will put into full council about holding reserve councillors for committees, which is only really necessary for this one, but potentially you can include reserve councillors for that as well, in case you are in a situation where you are sort of very close to not being Cora and things can go ahead. But I think that's something that needs to be run through full council, and I will talk to the park about it tomorrow when we go through the office, because we do have provision within standing orders to be able to do that.
I mean, although Cora tonight just, I don't particularly feel comfortable with
No,
that.
I thought that felt very uncomfortable with it. With such a
Yeah,
margin
we're
to the
grossly
president
outnumbered,
here.
aren't we? I don't feel comfortable in making any significant decisions when there are only 3 of us. It doesn't feel right, although technically we're okay.
I thought I looked at the terms of ref, I thought they looked fine.
Yes, I did.
Yes, well, yeah.
But I think I'd like the rest of the committee to
And
see those.
And I guess it would be good for members of the public to have the opportunity to attend.
Well,
Then would that be under the same rules as
So the terms of reference that I'd written, they're only drafts, so you can
I know,
tinker with
yeah,
them,
that's
obviously, but I assumed that they would be public Zoom meetings and that we would post the link to give that opportunity for members of the
And
public.
would it be the 3 minutes and then, we couldn't really have you can't really have a
Listen, can I just say, let me just say on this one. I don't think 15 minutes for the public to come to discuss anything and 3 minutes for each member of the public is anything good enough for that.
This is what our standing orders
I mean,
are, but today it was
it's
obviously not
something,
practical.
we didn't used to be like that. If somebody came with a complaint about a plan, we'd listen to that person. If somebody else wanted to complain, we'd listen. If we were stuck there at 10:15 at night, we wouldn't listen, because that's what we're there for. But 3 minutes is absolutely useless, and 15 minutes for what?
I mean, what the problem is, and I got the shit with this, that if you let people go on for more than 3 minutes, then
Hang
it
on,
comes back to.
Chartley's council meetings, when I was chairman for over 3 years, they'd have you for an hour and a half. You know,
It's not really productive, is it really?
yeah,
I mean,
you're listening to people's problems.
I think it was important that people had a long time to have their say tonight. There's nothing else that could be.
Well, has it gone anywhere? What are we going to do
Well,
about
it's not
it?
going to get well because we don't have any authority. Anyway, let's not run that issue now, please.
Anyway, it's just a pity we're any authority. Really.
I think there's another aspect of this subcommittee as well, in that, I mean, we don't have a problem, I don't feel, with the planning committee declared an interest. I think we're all fairly
No, we're quite, yeah.
good and open about that. So I don't think that's an issue, but technically we don't have to declare interest with the subcommittee.
No, I think if you wrote it into your terms of reference, it's good practice.
I would still expect people
We'll expect it, yeah.
to declare an interest.
Well, we're
And I
under,
think they would.
we're under a general duty, aren't we, to, I mean,
Yeah.
its expectation is that we do, so, yeah.
So I think I would want to make that, even if it can't be binding, I would like to make that point. That the expectation is that we declare interest just as we normally do.
That's a good point, I mean,
Yeah.
I will add that and for when I include it into the next executive agenda.
Okay. So are we happy with those suggested dates? I can do all of those.
Yeah, I'm happy with those dates, I can do them all.
Okay, so moving on to item 30, I thought we would push this on to the next meeting.
Oh, what's that?
Remit and priorities for the planning committee. Item 31, traffic calming. Again, I mean, I'll just give a little bit of a brief update on where I've got to. This is with the SIDS. But I think, again, we probably ought to push it on to the next meeting before we make any decisions on it. I have had information back from Kirklees about where the SIDS are positioned and where they are in their rotation. Unfortunately, that doesn't tally with where they actually are. And to be quite honest, our camera, so to speak, isn't where we asked it to go at the moment. It's in going towards New Mill from Jackson Bridge, and that isn't the site where we asked it to go, if that is ours.
Ah, you're right. You mean that's it?
Yeah, and it's been there.
It's on a course there, and it's serving no useful purpose at all. Because people don't go down that road much above 35 to 30 miles an hour.
No, it's been there months.
It has, it's been there a hell of a long time.
We've never had any feedback. I think there are a number of
It's
issues.
just past me house on left hand side.
There's a number of issues, I think, and I think I would probably like to push this on to the next meeting so that we can have a few more councillors input on it.
How many of these things have we got, Mary?
One in Norbury South and one in Norbury North.
So why
You
not
mean
two?
that belong to the parish, well, that we pay for, that we belong to this.
They want far too much money for that.
And then there are 3 others that Kirklees funded.
They're good, you know. I think we're going to get slow people
Yes,
down. As soon as it's ready to rain, people slow on.
School parking bollards, not much to say other than you fast for
I've asked for
feedback.
some feedback, but I haven't heard back from them yet.
And again, maybe this is something, I don't know whether other schools would be interested, maybe we could ask going forward.
It was true, didn't we, to find a home for these, but yeah,
Yeah.
we have to.
So, item 32, ongoing highways campaigns. Again, I don't think there's too much to discuss, other than the proposed TROs on Ramsden Road and Cartworth and Cheesegate and Scaly Gate have been delayed somewhat because they've been challenged by one of the off-roading groups threatened with court action, so they're now having another think about what they're doing.
Where are you talking now?
Ramsey Road, Scaly Gates, Cheesegate now. They're talking about allowing 4x4s to use it under licence now.
Oh, come on. The people have to live there, you know. I know, because I've been dealing with that job for 6 years now.
So at the moment, trying to get some more information out of them.
Have you spoken to the leader? What's his attitude for it? Because he was dead against it like me.
No,
He's still in the same position. You never get to go live.
so all I can say is, as I get further updates, I'll report back on those. 1933 is the big gate.
I think that's good, really. I have quite
Yeah, what's the other perennials then, you know?
I mean, I've seen as I walked around the south, there were lots of big bins, but I didn't realise it was quite such a big problem.
Ah.
70 bins.
Oh, well, that's right, geez. You said, I love it, you said, oh, a big problem, isn't it?
I counted them on Norgate one time, and I said, 19. So we're losing a good 3 parking spaces with bins, and the roads are on the side of the road.
Well, they used to park on the side of what was Deacon's School office, on right-hand side, last building on right-hand side. Then it got from 3 to 4 to 5. I think that most we ever had there was 7. And they were big bins. It took all the parking places to. And when Holgate had to deliver potatoes, our fish is a problem. You don't know where to eat shop.
Anyway, we've
dealt with that.
Item 34, planning policy guidance and consultation. We have a date range now, don't we? 22nd of July, when this chap is going to talk to us.
I think we should ask him again. I mean, he did send some briefing ages ago, but presumably his work may have moved on, because that was several months ago now.
Well, I can ask him to, I was going to ask one if you wanted to widen the invitation out to all councillors and perhaps a reference group or anything like that. And I was also going to ask if you want me to request any specific information from him before he comes.
My feeling is we ought to out to any councillors and those on the reference group.
Okay.
Let's ask him for some sort of briefing then, so.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he's also looking to interview individuals, and I think that there's a couple of people have said that I know have said that they'd be interested in talking to him. So if he still is, maybe you could ask that, Gemma, whether they're still looking for individuals to speak to.
As keeper of the list of local reference group members, are you able to forward on the invitation that I sent to councillors?
Part 2 of this, invite to be a case study in Town and Country Planning Association's online resource, Practical Hope, Inspiration for Community Action.
Did you ask?
Can I to jump in, the lady that's been in touch with us about this has been quite persistent.
Okay. I understand this is initially, it was about the reference group. Are we responsible of plan, or is it a general?
We just got in touch to say, I've heard you're quite active in the sort of general planning area.
Oh, okay.
Are you interested in being a case study? I suspect this has gone out to many parish councils as a request, but the lady has been quite persistent in coming back to us because obviously we've had a change of committee and that sort of thing. We've kind of pushed back a little bit, but my thinking was that the local plan reference group was a good example of a kind of larger community effort on planning, so it might be a good case study.
Without making any more work for ourselves though, because we've got enough, haven't we? I mean, would they be prepared to come to us and see what we're doing in the reference group?
I don't know whether they would travel necessarily, because I don't know where they're based, but I'm sure that they would definitely phone calls or Zoom meetings or whatever. Might be.
I also think it's a good thing to get involved in national, with national organisations, and because I mean that's how you make contacts as well, isn't it? And yeah, I mean I don't mind putting a little bit of effort into if that's necessary.
It may help our cause in with the reference group
Yes.
and the local plan to have this involvement anyway. I don't particularly want to make any more work for ourselves.
No, no.
And you know, if they're wanting something from us, then you know.
I think it will just be time, it will just be a bit of time to interview you and kind of pick out what they're after facts wise. Would you like me in that case to perhaps put in touch with the both of you two as some reference group and manager?
I mean, we could, do like a Zoom or something, wouldn't we, initially, and see.
Yes,
See if
exactly
it's,
what it's about.
Could we suggest that then?
I will, I'll put you in touch and then you can sort of figure out whether you do it as a collective Zoom meeting.
Part 3, updates for the UK planning system and planning infrastructure bill. First one is to note. The second one is to note. This is a reform working paper. Third one is to note. Planning reform working paper. Speeding up buildings. Last one is to consider response to the technical consultation on reform of planning committees. Sort of split views on this. I mean, I do think it's something we probably ought to be responding to. It's a consultation, and I just feel as though we ought to respond if we can.
Yes, I agree.
The time,
Not which time is that?
23rd of July, it makes it very difficult, doesn't it? I don't know whether this is something we could do on an individual basis. I haven't looked, so I don't.
Yeah, I have to confess I didn't get round to looking at that last time.
Those are the two options are you get together and put in a consolidated response. Obviously you know that is before our
Is
next
it?
meeting. Or I can send it around everybody and everybody can respond as individuals if they prefer.
It's one of these online, this one is
It is, yeah, they all are now.
Yeah.
Usually you can put in an email one if you want to.
I think I'd suggest that if we can, we do it individually.
I think so.
So
Yes.
I'll
This
circulate
time's really short, isn't it, for
Yeah.
this evening? I mean, time's really short to get something consolidated. But I think we should. I think.
Yes,
I'll
I
do
think
it.
so.
I'll do it.
And I certainly. I can do it
Well, and we
individually.
need to know this too. I think it's one way of making read something seriously.
Item 35, design code. Councillor Ransby's not here, so I don't think there's anything much to report on this.
We're working sort of slightly on putting a distribution list together. I think we're up to about 400, but it needs to go back down again, I think. Some of them aren't relevant. It's going to, honestly, there's no definitive list of businesses that put shop fronts in it. I think I'm going to just have to sit and tick them off Google Maps, which will be the last sort of stage of it. But what I was also thinking is that on its own, I'm not sure that it's going to have the impact that we want it to, in that it sort of, people might take it as something that we are demanding of them, when actually really it's encouraging them to be in a particular way. So my thinking was that I would draft, hopefully by next meeting, which is in August, I'll have the distribution list together. If I also draft a introductory letter about the aims and the purpose and what it can be used for, to go with it, we can do sort of an A5.
Yeah, or we could maybe offer to go and speak to the groups, or I completely agree with you. If we just deliberate it, what it won't
be what's this? What do you mean my shop's not pretty enough?
Compile, and that would be it.
So yeah,
I think we need to involve both the Homley Business Association and Convert Business together
item 36 then, now, speak, Oldfield Town Centre Group. We've had this news out in the news, which really sort of said everything was fine. I've been approached by a number of people, and I'm sure many other people have been about issues in the Oldfield Town Centre. Yeah. And I've tried to find out more about what's going on, timescales, the project plan, the costs, whether there are issues or we're behind, etc., etc. Finally found that Isabel Whitworth is now, I wouldn't say she's in charge of this, but she's described as the local centres programme manager. And I did ask her if she would consider coming along to a planning meeting and telling us about where we are with that. She hasn't said no, but she did say, and this was about coming to tonight's meeting. Unfortunately, due to short notice, unable to get childcare. However, as I said above, we understand the importance of keeping all Hull Valley Parish Councils informed, and at specific junctures, when we have updates, I'm more than happy to attend and provide updates.
Oh, that's good.
Which I think is sort of positive. I did wonder, rather than asking her to come just to the planning meeting, would it be better if she came to full council, given it's such an emotive and
Yes, I think that's
subject?
good.
Can we recommend that we do that we invite her to
Yes,
full
yeah,
council?
I'd certainly be happy to do that. I mean, the other person, because I know that Gemma tried to pursue him, and then I think he had family illness and went off. Because there's a new, I can't remember the man's name now, the C.R. Reynolds public liaison person. There's a new person now, isn't there?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Whether
Whether
who it was.
might be worth forgotten.
Do you want me to invite Isabel to join us at full council? Or what?
You wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
I suppose the first thing is we need to be sure that it goes on the agenda for the council.
Yeah. Is it September?
Full council, yeah, we're on full break.
Full break.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Reynolds fellow, I asked someone, one of the guys from Reynolds, when I was in Oxford, and he really pointed me to Kirklees.
Oh, right.
He said,
Well, what's
you need to take the Kirklees people.
Right.
So is there?
And then actually it was Margaret Dale who told me about Isabel Whitworth.
Right.
So she seems to be the point of contact.
Okay, fair enough, thanks, one.
So am I not following up on that one?
Sorry, follow up.
The town centre manager.
I wouldn't
Yes,
bother
I
with the
think
Reynolds.
And leave the Reynolds one, because
Yeah.
yeah. I wanted to invite somebody to talk on to the full, it's going to get a very full meeting, isn't it, about democracy in schools, democracy in schools. So I need to get have a lunch to check.
Yes.
Okay. Where are we? Item 37, Kirklees Local Plan Review. This is one that Councillor Ramsby has been working on.
No, me.
No, I'm jumping the gun. This
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
sorry, this is,
Yeah,
where's the reference?
not to spend too much time on this, so just note the two meetings. I've got the third, there's another one now. Another set of notes. My feeling was that given the breadth of what we're looking at in the reference group, that it makes sense for that this working group to report to full council rather than I mean, is this something we need to take to the next planning committee, given the stuff you...
You can defer it or you can make a recommendation to full
Well, I'd
council,
like to make
which actually the next meeting of this committee is before full council anyway, so you can defer it as well.
Okay.
Would you feel more comfortable than that? I mean, I'm quite happy.
If you're happy, let's go with it now then.
Yeah.
Until recommended, yes.
Yeah.
If you're
I think,
comfortable,
especially
yeah.
in such a small committee, I think
Yeah.
it's. So item 38 then, neighbourhood development plan, this is the one that's Councillor Lansbury's working on.
Sunning himself in
I
France.
know that will keep an update on item 39. Expenditure against budget. So we're noting the expenditure against budget. Only one budget line. We've got £2,500 to spend. And another 290 left in the the 90 can't be returned.
There's
So-
sorry.
We're £2,500
£2,500.
to do what we want.
Well, evidently there's not going to be no money around for the renewal revision of neighbourhood plans, and we need to do that as soon as we finish faffing about with the local plan review. We need to turn our attention to that won't be, I guess, this financial year. Well, we might get into it right at the end. So we may have, we may have a use for it.
There's nothing sort of springs to mind for me anyway that we
No,
need to be spending any significant sums on.
No,
I mean, I know
it's
there
not.
are things will arise, but
Yeah.
there's nothing I can think of at the moment. Okay, so we're noting that. Last thing, 1940, publicising the work of the Home Valley Parish Council. Assistant Clerk to update on plan activity.
Well, we just need to polish out at the weekend, so that was a good bit of council engagement work and lots of social media. Very warm day, very hot days. And a lot of what's going to be going out in the next sort of few weeks is going to be relating to the big community celebration. We're recruiting organisations for that. So that will be the kind of main crux of what we're up to. But if anybody has stories, I'm hoping to do a store ballads, like a news piece, if they get back to me with
I was just going to say, I think that's the one thing we could
That would be
possibly
nice.
do something.
I have given up on the Harmony House piece, and I'm afraid maybe I've got back to
Give
me
it up on what?
on getting their news, a picture for the Harmony High School stage, because they've just never got back to me, and I believe the students that were involved have just sat there for GCSEs and left school. So we sadly missed the boat on that one. Again, it's all slow.
Swimming in your reservoir.
More power to them. So I think, I think that one's gonna go on, but hopefully we'll get some one up.
Right. Have we ever done anything to do with the city?
I've done Sid stories, but not schools, not with the students,
It's not what she can push it. I mean, I did have a contact there, but.
I got passed around a few places, but they're just very busy schools, aren't they?
Yeah.
Very, very busy. I'm sort of fairly low down. My nice news story about their students is a bit lower down on the priority list.
I can try them if you think it's worthwhile.
Well, they've left now, so.
It's still a relevant thing though, isn't it? It's there for school safety, that's why. We can get photos of it without students, I suppose. But I can try them if you want.
if you, go for it. I just need a photo.